Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the book The Queen of Blood, Book 1 of the Queens of Renthia trilogy. This book was published in 2016 and was written by Beth Durst. So I mostly read science fiction. That's like my number one thing to go to, and then my other favorite genre is horror. But the last few years I've been trying to get into more of the high fantasy stuff. Now, I've tried before in the past with some books, but I've never really came across a series that really did it for me, that really made me want to invest in the series. Most of the times when I start the series when I read the first book in the series, I usually don't go on. I give up after that. So I tried again with this series. So this is a book that, how I came across it, I was just browsing the bookstore and I really liked the cover, so I picked it up. Now, after reading the first book in this series, I have to say that this first book didn't quite do it for me, but it had enough good stuff in it that it made me want to continue on with the series. So I'll get into more of why I felt that way later on. So what is this book about? So the world that this story takes place in is the world of Renthia. So Renthia is filled with spirits, elemental spirits. So everything in this world has a spirit. So like there's earth spirits, there's tree spirits, water spirits, fire spirits, and air spirits. And they can these spirits can control the elements, make things grow and move rocks to catch stuff on fire, or create windstorms, all that kind of thing. And but the thing about it is these spirits hate human beings. So the humans who inhabit this world are always under the threat of being attacked by spirits. And if the spirits had their way, they would just violently kill every last human in this world. Now, this world is divided up into countries, different countries. And with each country has a queen that rules it. So now the queens have this ability, they can control the spirits. So so that creates a level of protection for the people who live in these countries. So the queen protects the people from the spirits, but the queens also command the spirits. So they can make the spirits do whatever they want. So they can command the fire spirits to burn things, or they can command the earth spirits. If they need a dam built at a river, the earth spirits can build one. Or if they need something built out of wood, the tree spirits can build it. So like that, that's how they can use their abilities. And also they can, ride the spirits. So they can like get on an air spirit and use it as a form of transportation or ride through the air. So that's one of the things I liked about this book, as opposed to some of the other high fantasy books I've read, is that the setting came off as somewhat unique. And I really thought it was an interesting magical system that was used with the queens being able to control spirits and stuff like that. So that's the setup for the world. So now the story is about this girl named Delania, who lives in this country of Arete. And Arete is like very heavily forested. So the majority of the spirits there are tree spirits. And the people who live in these forests, they usually live, their villages are off the ground. They live quite a ways up in the trees, so they're off the forest floor. So one day when Delana's a child, her village gets attacked by spirits. And so when this happens, she discovers she actually has the ability to control spirits because she uses that ability to save her family. So when she realizes this, she is now a potential heir. So how these countries operate is each queen has an academy that's always training up potential heirs to take her place, because they always need a queen in place, because if something happens to the queen, if she's killed suddenly or dies of old age, then that's an opening the spirits can use to attack the people, because there's no queen protecting them. There's no queen commanding the spirits. So that's how the world is set up. So after this incident, and she learns she has this ability, she's sent off to one of these academies, and she has to train now, and where she's trained and taught how to use her abilities, how to control the spirits, how to summon them, how to command them to do things, and stuff like that. So it's a lot like, it's very much has like a lot of that YA stuff in it. I've seen people describe it as like a YA adult/fantasy series. Because you kind of have that, a young person leaving home, going to an academy, learning, so kind of like Harry Potter. But what I liked about this book is it had an interesting twist on that, where in Harry Potter, he's like this chosen one. you kind of know he's destined for greatness at some point. But what's cool about this story is when Delena gets to the academy, she realizes she actually really sucks. She's like the weakest one at the academy, and she has to work like extra hard to try to control the spirits, and extra hard to try to learn how to master all the other stuff that comes a lot easier to the other students in her class. So that's one of the things I liked about it, because as the story goes on, there's a catastrophe hits this academy where all the heirs get wiped, they get taken out. So she ends up becoming queen out of absolute desperation. She wouldn't have even been picked at all, and she probably would not have been queen except for out of an act of desperation. They needed a queen, so they had to pick her. So that's what I liked about this story, is the main character, Delena, is a very likable character, written in a very likable way, and not only that, but is like an underdog character. So she really has to struggle throughout the story. So now, one thing about this story is, as I was reading it, I found it to be very slow-paced and somewhat boring. And as I was reading it, I was like kind of debating in my mind if I should go on further with the rest of the books. But there is there's like a conspiracy that kind of reveals itself as you kind of get more towards the end of the book, that really turns the tide and made me want to go on and read the other books. And the conspiracy is, each one of these heirs they get chosen by these warriors called champions. And so these champions end up training the heirs. You have the other people at the academy that train them in the magical side of things. But then you have like these champion warriors who train them in all the other more physical stuff, like how to fight, how to survive in the wilderness, all that kind of thing. And how to, fight spirits hand to hand, those kind of things. That's what they're for. So there's this one disgraced champion named Ben. Now, he got disgraced because he started to question why the queen didn't step in and protect Delena's village from getting attacked by spirits. So he ends up getting disgraced, and he ends up teaming up with Delena and helping to train her. So there's like a conspiracy going on of why. Why is that? Why did the current queen, and the current queen at this point is Queen Farah in the story, why did Queen Farah not do anything? Did she not have enough power? Was she not powerful enough? Did she just let it happen? So that's the part. Well, when you get into that part of the book, now it really ramps up and it gets very interesting. And so it is kind of slow going, but when it gets to that part after I was done reading it, then that was enough. Okay, I want to try the second book. I want to see where this book goes. So that's the cool thing about it. Now, as I said before, one of the other things I liked about this as compared to some of the other high fantasy books I've read in the past, say like stuff like Dragonlance or the Forgotten Realm stuff, the difference being is when I read those books, they feel very derivative. It's like the writers are using Lord of the Rings, because they're very heavily based on like Lord of the Rings stuff. So it almost feels like the people who wrote those books, they're using Lord of the Rings as a template and plugging their own stories into it. So now that's not to say none of those stories can be good. It's just the particular ones I've read just weren't enough to really get me invested to continue on and reading their sequels. Where this story feels a lot more unique than those ones, because you don't have the realm of elves and the orcs and all that kind of stuff, or the dark elves and all that stuff that you have in those other books. None of that is in this, so it makes it for a more of a unique feeling world. And I like the unique magic setup, like the power sets of the queens controlling the spirits. It's quite different where the other fantasy books I've read, the magic systems are just, the writers are just pulling them right out of their ass. Like anything goes. That's how I found about those ones. Where this one had a very clear-cut power set, and here's how it works, and here's what you can do with it, and this is what you can't do with it. So the ground rules of how that magic system works is very well laid out in this series. Not only that, as I said before, I really like the main character of Delena. But one of my other favorite characters is, there's a character in this, it's a wolf. The wolf named Bane, who is buddies with the champion Ven. So they're always together. Now, in the first book, there doesn't seem to be anything really special about this character, but you do get the impression that this is not like an ordinary wolf. There's something more to this wolf. But then that really gets played out in the next 2 books. And that really ends up being a really interesting hook of what is the deal with this wolf. The other really character that I like in this book is the character of Mircott. Now, she was one of Delania's friends at the academy. And now she was like the opposite of Delania. She was like super confident to the point where she was arrogant, but then she was like kind of like always bucking the rules, and she was very rebellious, but she was extremely powerful. She had a really good talent for controlling the spirits. So they have like kind of like this uneasy friendship. So she made for a really interesting character. And the other thing about this world is the way the writer explains everything. You can really visualize a really cool world in your head. Like the way I visualized it made for some really interesting visualizations. I could really like get a good look at what the characters looked like in my head. Not only that, I like the way the spirits are presented physically. They have a really wide variety of forms. Like, so like tree spirits could be like almost like part tree, part lizard, or almost fully plant-like, or the air spirits could almost kind of look like a dragon crossed with like an eel, or all kinds of weird forms they have. So it makes for some really interesting diverse forms. So like the world building, I guess, is very good, and it's written in a way that you can really visualize it. So that is something I really liked about this book. But now I gotta say, after reading all 3 books, because I'm going to talk about the other 2 books later on, the first book is by far the weakest link in this trilogy. Because as I said, for a good chunk of the book, it is slow moving, kind of slow paced and kind of boring, and it doesn't really feel like you don't really know where it's going. But once that conspiracy part of the book starts to reveal itself, that's when it really turns interesting and gets good. And that was enough for me to want to go on and read the other 2 books in the series. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.